The Proteas flying the flag for South Africans seems to be a bit of fear and trepidation about the upcoming Super Rugby season, and of course the Springbok season. And on that note, more on the rumour mill about Alistair Coetzee's job potentially not safe. Mark Alexander at SA Rugby saying that they haven't made their decision yet about him, which seemed to come as a bit of a surprise. And then again, names being thrown around, Rassie Erasmus. Here's Camp denying it. What's going on there?
To be honest, it came out as a bit of a surprise, the rumour or the confirmation from Mark Alexander that Alistair Coetzee's job was in fact not 100% safe. I think we're all under the impression that it was going to cost 13 million rand to get rid of him or get him out of his contract, and they simply didn't have that sort of money to pay him out. But now, as recently as yesterday, Mark Alexander is saying that it's not a foregone conclusion. They're going to make a decision before the end of this month. Obviously, Rassie Erasmus, who was linked, I think, to the job before Alistair Coetzee took it, he's now heading up Munster, who's doing fantastic stuff in Europe. His agent came out and said, basically, why would he want to leave? There's no interference, no politics. He's got a long-term contract that he's been paid in euros or pounds or whatever it may be, and he's the flavour of the month basically over at Munster. So I'd be very surprised if he steps in. I think Alistair Coetzee is still going to stay simply because there is nobody better available to take over. It's sort of like a default to being the best candidate because there's just simply nobody better out there. Everyone's either linked to a job in a long-term contract. If you can't pay 13 million rand to get rid of Alistair Coetzee, you're certainly not going to buy out any foreign coach in pounds, euros to take over. It's going to cost you even more. So I think Alistair Coetzee will be there. I don't really see how the results this year are going to be any better. It's almost on paper a tougher year than it was last year when you've got France in mid-year. Ireland came last year in mid-year with a weakened side and we only scraped past them 2-1. I think France will be very tough to beat in mid-year. Then you've got the Rugby Championships and end of year tour already looking fairly tough. So I don't really know what's changed between last year's last match and the first match of this year. The Super Rugby is obviously going to play a big role. As you say, it starts now on the 25th or 24th of February, so only a couple of weeks away. South African teams, who really knows how they play. It's going to be a tough season, I think, for the Lions. Second season syndrome. I think they won't be as good as last year. The Stormers don't look. They've got some off-field issues there. The Bulls might be a surprise package. They've signed Luti Joachim. They've got some players there. Andre Pollard might be back for them as well, so they might be the leading light in that division. But that's still 6 months of rugby locally to decide sort of who gets picked for that mid-year tour squad. So lots still to happen, but I think Alistair Coetzee is going to be in the job.
Super Rugby, Rob, how are you feeling about the upcoming season? I mean, it does feel like the novelty's worn off slightly with this sort of confusion around the new conference system, and obviously South African sides had a pretty poor showing last year.
Yeah, I'm actually, to be brutally honest, I'm feeling less excited about this Super Rugby season than I have any previous Super Rugby season. I don't think there's any reason to think that a South African team is suddenly going to sort of jump from left field and grab the trophy. We know that we've been waiting a long time since the Bulls achieved their hat-trick a few years ago for any sort of further sort of overall success in the competition. I just don't see it happening. Stormers, of course, often a sort of nearly team, but as Garen said, lots of crisis behind the scenes, financial issues, and the fact that they've got the New Zealand teams on their side of the draw this year, which obviously bodes pretty ill for them. Sharks always thereabouts, but you know what? Every few weeks you read about another sort of key South African player being linked to an overseas club or going to an overseas club, and that has such a crippling effect on any bid to build a potentially title-winning team. And the brutal truth is, I don't think there is any South African title-winning team. I don't think any single South African side, when you consider the attrition rate you'll get over the course of the 6 months or so that the competition lasts, key players will get injured, the ones who are still playing in this country. And that's where your reserve barrel becomes, more and more dubious these days in South African franchises. So I really don't foresee any sort of relief from the gloom for South Africa. I'm afraid it's going to be a long, drawn-out season, and I think you're going to see attendances sort of, getting bums on seats is going to be a massive challenge as well, I would imagine.